Good morning, everyone. Bonnie Crombie is trying to make everything fair. And I don't know what version of fairness this is. Okay, I don't get how this is fair. Tomorrow at Region of Peel Council, I will be putting forward a motion to limit the in-person sale of non-essential items in big box stores. I believe this will create fairness for small retailers who have had to close their doors and move online, curbside pickup and delivery. I don't understand how that is fair at all. One version, the big box store gets to stay open and the other little guy doesn't get to stay open. But now the big box store can't sell everything. So all that happens is the consumer is now forced to go online. And where do you think they're going to go? They're going to go to Amazon, right? Or Walmart or one of the other big retailers or medium-sized retailers. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think online plays a key part in our economy, but it's not the only part. And I think that this is not the right move. I said a few days ago, this is part of a dance, and forget it. They're sidelining Doug Ford. He's not moving fast enough for them. They're going right after the mayors. Like, you do it right now. You do it right now. I bet you John Tory follows suit. Cam Guthrie's already making noises about it, and I'm holding him accountable. He responds to me in GIF. Very mature. It's funny. Here's Dan Kelly, and he's the CFIB president and CEO of the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. And he says, I appreciate Mississauga Mayor Bonnie Crombie's call to improve COVID retail fairness in Peel by limiting big box stores to essential goods. How does it make it fair? When big box stores can open, two the little guys can't, regardless of what they can sell. You can't just go and buy some product and say, I'm an essential retailer now, right? And it's covering up who deems the essential items. Do you just have the city council who gets to decide what's essential? Seriously? Is that okay? So I asked him, and I said, like, I don't think this is a good move. I said, bad move, Dan. Like, nobody wants this. Nobody wants that move. Nobody wants to be reduced in their choice of things to buy. Nobody even wants to be reduced in their choice of being able to enter and patron a small business, right? You want to be able to do that. That's part of your freedom. You want to go and shop local, right? It costs money to put these things online. It's not free. It's expensive. And if you don't know how to do it, it's even more expensive. Dan Kelly continues, but a better plan would be to allow small business a limited pathway to in-store sales. This has happened over the last 2 days in Alberta, Nova Scotia, and Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is limiting big box to 50% capacity while allowing small retailers to stay open. If you can shop in a big box store, you can shop in a small retailer. It is no different, and pretending it's different is not responsible. So I asked Dan Kelly, what is fair? What is fair about the big box stores covering up some of their products? And I haven't got a response. So I think that he's probably upset that I'm saying that he supports Bonnie Crombie's motion. But I don't think that mealy language and weak language is a good way to approach this. This is not a plan for fairness. This is a plan to reduce consumer choice, to funnel us online. This is the Sustainable Development Goals. People talk about the UN 2030, all of that stuff. This is all in line with that. So I want to call it out. I don't want weak language, and I don't want leaders or people who are being paid to represent small businesses say, oh yeah, that's kind of fair, and then get away with saying that's kind of fair without explaining exactly what they mean. So maybe I'm not being fair. Maybe I'm not being nice. Maybe I'm not being whatever you want to call it. But I really don't care. I really don't care. People who are representing a lot of people should be held accountable. They should be able to say, this is what I meant by that. This is why I think that we should lock down all small businesses. This is why Adamson's barbecue is a terrible danger to society. And then back it up with data. You liars. Okay, Adamson's barbecue. Here's the Toronto Star. Adamson's barbecue owners charged after owner vowed to open restaurant a day after it was ordered closed. So this is yesterday afternoon's news about this. I'm going to go through some videos. I think this one's important. It says Joe Warmington asking him, what are you trying to accomplish here? What are your goals? And this is the response. Here we go.
I mean, you become a star. The whole world's watching. Everybody's doing it. But at the core of it, what is this all about for you?
What I'm hoping to do here, because I don't believe my restaurant will make it through a winter of lockdowns. Yeah. I think there's a lot of other businesses that won't make it through another winter of lockdowns. I'm hoping that by doing this, I'm standing up for the little guy, giving some other people some courage to do the same, because without a doubt, if many people do this, it will not be stopped, and
you're handling it.
So he's relying on a lot of people following his lead, and we'll get there. There are other people who are following his lead, so that's good. I think also, I said the other day you're going to lose, and maybe I'll rephrase. The thing here, I thought they were going to come in with a large police presence and arrest everyone and remove everybody and do this daily. And they haven't done that. And I thought that the fines would be quicker, that they'd have the fines faster, right? That they'd try and crush him with big, heavy fines. Now, they have fined him, as far as I can understand it, and I'll show you that. But what's happened isn't exactly what I expected. And I think that the goal here was to challenge this in court, right? Like, and not that I didn't see that, I understood that, but I thought initially that the goal was to run as many days open as you could. And I think he's doing that. He's going to run today. He's open today, which is good. But there's lots more to that story before I get there. But this is the first battle. So he's going to try and run as long as he can until they really do shut him down. And they tried to this morning. But the other battle is once he gets the charge, then he can fight it in court. Once he fights it in court, that sets a precedent. And then the problem here is, well, there's activist judges everywhere in Canada. Right? So we're not guaranteed to win. But I don't know that he says, there's another video of him saying that his lawyers think that they don't have any legal standing. Here it is. Brian Lilly, Adam Skelly says that his lawyers are confident he will win in court if he's charged or fined. I'm truly amazed that it's taken this long for a challenge to these rules. Canadians challenge rules in court all the time. And like, that's part of this, right? But man, they are trying to make an example out of this guy. Here we go. This is what he thinks about the lawyers. Here we go.
Today, he said they're going, he agrees with this. Throw the book at you.
I didn't hear the
well,
mayor.
I
didn't listen to the establishment media last night.
So anyway, but he's threatening him. Mark Grimes talking about closing it down. They're talking about $100,000 fine, a year in jail. That's what they're saying. They're the man, and you're up against the man. Just you.
Same story. I mean, I know that I'm up against fines and possible jail time, but my lawyers are pretty convinced that none of this stuff's going to hold up in court anyway.
You heard the mayor today. He said they're going.
So, I mean, that's good news to me. He's got a plan. He's talked to lawyers. I've seen people saying that he doesn't have a business license. I can't imagine that he doesn't have a business license. Maybe there's a loophole or something. I've seen reporters questioning whether he has a license, but I haven't seen any evidence that he doesn't have a license. So that's out there. So I wanted to make that clear. This is when the police moved in yesterday. I thought, this is it. This guy's saying this could be your children or your grandkids. And the police moved in. I thought, oh, man, that sucks. They didn't do anything. No fines. Randy Hillier said, today I recognize Adam Skelly of Adamson's BBQ for his courage and conviction. He tested the law, and I encourage others to do the same. I will be testing the law today at No Lockdowns Pots and Pans rally at 10 a.m. in front of the legislature. Join me. I think that they'll be building their group. Likely. Here's Joe Warmington again. This is another 30 seconds. I can't remember what this video is about. Hold on, we'll play it.
Looks like you got along pretty well with the police. They seemed like you had a good rapport with the police. How did that go?
Everything went well. They asked the people to leave. They did not. Once again, the police did not issue any fines to me or any of the patrons of my restaurant.
You have never been fined in all of this so far?
I have not been fined.
And no threat of fine?
I asked them to find me. I asked them to find me today. They refused to find me.
So they refused to find him yesterday, and then they fined him. Here's tickets issued, says Joe Warmington. Right, so that's 23 hours ago. Then an hour later, he was fined. And then the city councilor says he was fined, and he was pushing for the maximum fine, and blah, blah, blah. That's politicians, though. He gets the entire crowd to chant "CBC sucks" as he removes the press from his property. I thought it was funny.
Hey, guys! Deputize everybody.
Yeah, so he deputized everybody and blah, 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 but they all chanted CBC sucks. This is Doug Ford yelling at the owner of at Adam Skelly saying, oh, now he should be shut down. Pundit class says Doug Ford's totalitarian side is showing. Whatever happened to free people deciding for themselves what risk they're willing to take? If you don't like what's happening at Adam's BBQ, don't go. Stay home, put on your mask, and hide under your bed. Yes. I'm not going to play the Doug Ford thing. He's just blustering. He's just blustering, and I don't believe him. Sorry. Put up or shut up, man. And I think it's more shut up. 21 hours ago, Adam Skelly says Adamson BBQ says he will be back tomorrow. And that's today. And so what happened? Now, I want you to notice that the press knew that the police were moving on them at 6 a.m. Why did they know? Because they were there. The barbecue opens at 11. Why would they be there at 6 a.m. changing the locks, which is what they were doing? And why would the press know that the police were there? Did the police let the press know? We'll be here tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, bright and early. Wink, 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 wink. We didn't let them know, but he said, wink, wink, wink. Right? It seems like I think I got something in my eye. I think that it's very interesting that the press was right on scene, recording video, putting out tweets at 6 a.m. I woke up and I was like, what the HE double hockey sticks? And I tweeted it out, and I tagged Mr. Skelly in the tweets, and I said, are you aware of this? He was there at 7, I think. And happening now, 680 News, man, they've got cameras ready to go. Police are moving in at Adamson Barbecue. Cameras capture police entering the location around 6 a.m. this morning. Adamson's is opened illegally for 2 straight days in defiance of the lockdown. More to come. This is for you. This is for the audience, right? This is, and for Mr. Skelly, but this is for the audience to make sure that they understand that we're coming, we're going to shut this guy down, right? And this is a 680 News reporter, right? Editorializing. A very upset owner of Adamson's Barbecue arrives at his Etobicoke location. Now shut down after city staff, Toronto police with locksmiths entered the building around 6 a.m. He's shut down, everyone. Right? Police showed up and changed the locks at Adamson's Barbecue. Owner just showed up and happily went in the side door instead. If you change the locks, you got to change all the locks. I don't know if that's true. I saw on Mr. Skelly's timeline, he says, need locksmiths and other hands at a Etobicoke location ASAP. Now, he may have gone in the side door and they had done something to the lock that made it impossible to open the front door or something. I'm not sure. I have no idea, really. But it seems that he did need a locksmith to come. And this is his advertiser. Queen Street West Boulevard will be locked. You'll have to walk in. Open at 11. Good job, Mr. Skelly. Good job. Don't let them intimidate you. To quote the president from yesterday. Very interesting. I told you that there would be other places joining. It's not a restaurant, so this is interesting. It's retail. It's a different thing altogether, I think. So there's no, is it different? Restaurants can get shut down for health violations. Now, I'll go back and talk about this in just a second, but these guys are going to be testing the law too, okay? So they're doing that Friday, and they say, hold on, I'll read it. Noble Toys in Toronto will be opening their doors for all Christmas shoppers on this Saturday, despite the government's attempt to shut our doors on small business. I'm now going to be buying Christmas gifts this year from them to show support. And there's their Christmas or their Instagram thing. I don't have an Instagram thing, so I'm not going to go to that. I said on Twitter this morning that I thought that going into their business was illegal. There's a process that they need to go through, and I don't know, and I don't know the ins and outs of this. Maybe there was a court order issued to change the locks on the business, but you'd think they'd notify the business. I looked for other instances of like Toronto Health being able to shut down a business like this, or Toronto Health being able to go in and change locks on a business like this, and I couldn't find anything. I found a 2014 article talking about a business that was not paying their rent, and so Toronto gave them plenty of notice and then went in with locksmiths and changed the locks and seized the business. So that's different. There was also illegal pot shops that had big concrete cinder blocks put in front of their doors to prevent people from entering and exiting. Is that the same as changing your locks? I mean, one enters a property, the other is outside the property. The illegal pot shop is operating outside of a license, but could the argument be made of Mr. Skelly that he's operating outside of the law because of the lockdowns, blah, blah, blah? And the problem is it's the constitutional argument, right? Can you reasonably lock down a region in a province and say to those people, you can't go out, you can't shop, you can't open your businesses, and then tell other people in the province that it's okay? Is that constitution? Does that stand up to Section 7 of the Constitution? There are a lot of constitutional questions with regards to these lockdowns, and there are constitutional questions with regards to what exactly is the data that these people are using to justify these actions, right? Like, these actions are crushing. I went out for lunch yesterday, and I wasn't wearing a mask, and my friend was wearing a mask, and we sat down and we ate, and it was a good meal, and everything was fine. And the owner of the restaurant was like more than half empty at this. Well, I mean, it was after lunch when we finished, and we were just chatting back and forth. And she said she was done with Trudeau. If they implement this next lockdown here, she's just going to close up because it's not worth it, and blah 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 blah. And she said, these communists, we have to fight this. They can't do this. And she was talking about the Adamson barbecue stuff, just locking him down, not even the breaking in and changing his locks and stuff. And I mean, I think that you feel violated as a private citizen if you came home and your locks were changed and you're like, oh, I can't go into my house. And they said, oh no, you've done something wrong, right? It's very similar, right? Like, they just walk into the guy's house and change his locks, walk into his private business and change his locks. There's a process. There's a procedure you got to go through, in my opinion. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a lawyer, but I feel like some steps were hop skipped over, right? I think that it's not right to have the police show up and lock up a business without due process, without going through the steps needed to do that. It seems like a dirty, underhanded trick. It seems like a dirty, underhanded trick to waste money, to make them spend money to fix something that they broke on purpose just before you open. And there are different strategies day by day. Their different strategies don't include charging, and we're charging the patrons. That tells you a lot, because this isn't going to hold up. Open your businesses. Open your businesses. Here's Milhouse Van Houten. He says, a coalition of 1,200 business owners in Quebec will be taking legal action against the Legault government with the aim of ending its state of public health emergency. Why isn't Dan Kelly doing that? Right? Why isn't Dan Kelly saying, all of my businesses agree with this guy? Let's do that. This is great. Rather than saying, you know what, Bonnie Crombie? Good job. I appreciate the fairness crumbs that you're giving me there. But how is that fair again? Could you explain your rationale, Ms. Crombie? I don't understand how that's fair. Hold her accountable, for crying out loud. Mark Friesen says, from what I understand, all these measures being taken against freedom-loving patriots and our Constitution, charter rights, hinges on the government being able to prove demonstrably that they're necessary. And it's the only avenue that allows them to ignore the charter. And he says, and the other thing hinges on the masses accepting tyranny. So far, our fates, I believe he means to say, lies in the courts. And yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to prove it. Here's the total disease. The total decrease in deaths by other causes almost exactly equals the increase in deaths by COVID-19. This suggests, according to Briand, that this COVID-19 death toll is misleading. There's a lot of indications that there's some monkeying with the data. Right? Here's something out of Alberta. The reality CBC News either can't or won't give you. Total deaths in Alberta from all causes in 2018 was 26,037. The 471 COVID deaths reported so far in 2020 would equal 1.8 of that total. Now ask how many between 30 and 40 cycles on a PCR test the zone Fauci says is benign. So yeah, it's very interesting what they're doing in Alberta and Saskatchewan and all of the other places, considering where the mass amount of deaths are located in Ontario and Quebec. And in Ontario and Quebec, the deaths are largely located in nursing homes and long-term care homes. Now, I wanted to mention, Brian Lilly and I talked about this on Twitter, and I'm not going to bring up the tweet. Maybe I'll put it in the description. But somebody said that my numbers were wrong. I think I mentioned that yesterday in my show, that my numbers may have been wrong. It may be 65%. That's what Ontario.ca reports. But my question to him, because he said, yes, they're wrong. Here's the Ontario.ca numbers, which I already had. And I said, where's the retraction from CTV News? Like, what data did they use? Have they retracted? If they retract, then fine, no problems. I'll change my video, or I'll re-upload a video that explains the clarification, or I'll continue to let you guys know that, maybe I messed that up. I'll do an updated video, whatever. I like being not right, but I like having as close to the truth as I can find, right? And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, but I haven't seen the data that I'm wrong. I've just seen conflicting numbers, and that just leads more questions, right? That just leaves me saying, why the heck is there conflicting data? Why is CTV News National running this scare porn piece on the amount of deaths that shows it's mostly in long-term care, like a huge amount in long-term care, and not many people in the community are dying of this. So it's a very interesting situation. Anyway, regardless, I'll let you know if I find the answers that I'm looking for, and I will update you on that. But here's Denise, and she says, did you know that there's always a second wave of deaths in Canada that starts every single October? Yep. On average, 720 to 750 people die every day in Canada. In October, that number increased 1%, November 1.5, December 1.5, in January 2.2. As summer approaches, the deaths decrease. January is the top of the screenshot, and she goes through, and this is just Canadian StatsCan, and I'm not going to lead you through it, but she leads you through it with the tweet thread here. 20 people die per every 1,000 people in 2020. 7 people died for every 1,000 people. Excuse me, in 1950, 20 people died per every 1,000 people. In 2020, 7 people died for every 1,000 people. This is not a pandemic. 1950s was not a pandemic. If this was a pandemic, 100 people would be dying for every 1,000. Check all 3 screenshots. So Denise makes a compelling case, in my opinion. There are questions about the all-cause mortality. There are questions about the questionable math they're using or the decrease in deaths by other causes equals the increase in deaths by COVID-19. So that's there are indications that things are kind of off here, right? Here's another one. Alberta has the biggest funded public health care system in North America. AHS has has 8,515 acute care beds with a $20 billion budget, yet AHS says having only 328 of those beds occupied by COVID patients is putting the system in crisis, warranting lockdowns. We deserve an explanation from AHS. I've made the same argument or a similar argument for Ontario hospitals as well. We spend $64 billion or $63 billion, billion with a B. What's the population of Ontario again? 15 million odd, right? 14 million, 14.5 maybe. $63 billion? Like where's it going? Where's it going? What kind of overhead is that? Jeff McGowan says there is a difference between acute and critical care. There are 704 critical care beds in all service provided province-wide. By comparison, Ontario has approximately 1,300 with over 3 times the population. So I think that's interesting. He's trying to make a comparison to Ontario, and Ontario is worse off. We're saying 150 is our limit, man. We can't do anything after 150. I wanted to bring this chart up again, the communist coercive methods for lifting individual compliance, the Biderman report of 1956 and COVID-19. This is amazing. Polly has done in-depth videos looking at, is the COVID response torture? Yeah, I think that they were bang on. Amazing Polly is ahead of the curve, man. There's a whole bunch of there's some very concerning actions being taken to crush this business, to send messages that are trying to say that this man deserves to have his business broken into because he's defying this order. Like they're not trying to play nice. They're not trying to do anything other than crush this man's resolve. It's very, very interesting. And I mean, terrible. This is awful. Like it's not good. But have a look through this chart. I don't want to read through it because something like this doesn't transfer well to being read to you. But go have a look at this chart. It's a photo. The link is a photo. So it's a Twitter photo. So at the end of it, it's got photo if you want to look for it. But it doesn't relate well reading, but man, it bears mentioning that there's a lot of mapping that the chart of coercion has to the COVID-19 response, and that is concerning. Here is, man, this is a gentleman being served a fine for attending church. And I'm just going to let it play for, 35, maybe 40 seconds. He makes a good point here. I believe this is Manitoba. This is out west. Somebody sent this to me yesterday. So thank you for sending this kind of stuff. I appreciate it. I hope you don't mind me sharing it. I think that you said share it away. That's okay. So this is happening. This is happening. If you think that you live in a free country, think again. Here we go.
Like Tyler said, we're just here to issue the ticket. I'm not here to argue with you about your constitutional rights, anything like that. That's for the justice and the law system to deal with. I'm just here to issue you with the ticket. Mm-hmm. So this is for you. Oh, actually, you have to read it.
I signed it, so I'm just issuing it too.
Do you all realize that something doesn't make sense here? That we're talking about the Constitution and you're completely overriding it? Do you realize that? Since when does mandates like these have more power and authority than the Constitution that was written for the protection of Canadians?
We're not here to argue with you.
No,
our job is to issue with this ticket.
I just hope once you all leave, once this is all said and done, once you all leave, I want all of you to think about that. You're enforcing something that goes against the Constitution. Please think about it.
And I mean, we're just doing our jobs, right? That was a good defense back in the. Oh, right. It just doesn't stand up. Same with this. Washington Examiner says low dose hydroxychloroquine combined with zinc and erythromycin was an effective therapeutic approach against COVID-19. Study finds 84% fewer hospitalizations for patients treated with controversial drug. Because it's controversial and cheap, potentially could it have saved any of the deaths in Canada? There are a lot of places that have been using this that have had much less death than Canada. Why aren't we using it? I'm sure the Washington Examiner isn't good enough to send to Doug Ford, but anyway, regardless. News Talk 1010 says the Canadian Press News has learned that the provincial government will table legislation to cap third-party delivery fees in lockdown regions. So Doug Ford wants to now run delivery services and, just set prices for everyone. It's not a communist dictatorship. It's just needed until this crisis is over. When will this crisis be over? I'm not going to define those terms for you. We're in a crisis. Scott Moe says just a few weeks ago, the Prime Minister was touting the contracts his government has signed to procure millions of doses of vaccine for Canadians. Now he's suddenly admitting Canada is at the back of the line. I mean, thank goodness, right? Justin Trudeau stumbled into doing something right. I don't want a vaccine. I don't think anybody I know wants a vaccine. There are some pearl-clutching Karens that want a vaccine. I think I'll let my immune system handle this one, right? I think the 99.99%, 9987% survival rate for people in my age group, that's enough for me. I think I'm good. I don't need a vaccine. I certainly don't need a vaccine to move out of my house or to go to a grocery store or to go into a Costco or to go to another place traveling-wise or whatever. I don't want this vaccine. So, I mean, being a complete ineffective leader and kowtowing to all other places in the world, Justin Trudeau stumbles into doing something kind of right. Anyway, regardless, Scott Moe continues, what's going on? What kind of contracts did the federal government sign that provide no timeline for vaccine delivery? Canadians deserve answers. You know, yesterday I said that the investigations in the United States were uncovering international money laundering schemes that were targeting COVID-19, PPE, and all sorts of other stuff with the governor of California. And I said, man, we should probably dig into like the government of California's green cap and trade program and Ontario and Quebec's cap and trade program. If they're so corrupt with their international money laundering scheme, could Canada be part of that international scheme? I mean, I hope not, but I fear that, remember that 213 million that turned into 173 million with no real answer to why that happened? I fear that $173 million has disappeared. Canada go? Where are they? Anyway, made in Canada solutions to COVID-19 vaccine availability delayed due to unfinished construction. Oh, shucks. They didn't finish the construction in time. So, you know, that's where a lot of the money went. Could we see some receipts? Oh, no, they don't keep those. This is the Liberal government. And if they did keep them, they'd destroy them. Ottawa spent millions on domestic vaccine production, says Maclean's. Where is it? Politics Insider for November 25th. The Prime Minister says there's no domestic capacity to produce COVID-19 vaccines. Chrystia Freeland makes a date with fiscal destiny and just how much sanitizer has Canada produced. I don't care. I don't care about the sanitizer. Chrystia Freeland's fiscal update is going to be just a disaster. It's not going to provide us with any real information, I don't think. I don't think it's going to give us any real information that is actionable or that anybody will take action on. The NDP are on board. They like what's happening. They're like, you're not spending enough. Colin DeMello says, breaking, CTV News has learned McKinsey & Company was paid $1.6 million to help create the COVID-19 command tables and $3.2 million to help with the school reopening strategy. So McKinsey is... These are the people that were given millions of dollars to develop our COVID strategy. This is the About Us, sustainability, diversity, social responsibility. Okay? These are the people who have been paid big bucks to come up with the plan. Of course they want lockdown. My goodness. Our commitment to making a difference in society is embedded in everything we do. They say sustainability, we are committed to protecting the planet. Yeah. Diversity. Oh my goodness. Goodness gracious me. Because these are all buzzwords that don't really mean what diversity and inclusion. There it is. There it is. This should terrify you. These are the people that Doug Ford gave millions of dollars to help him craft the COVID response. Is this going to hold up in court when people say, so you locked down due to how many numbers and why? Unbelievable. The Ministry of Education says the value of the contract was $942,000 for McKinsey to provide feedback on the childcare and school reopening plans. The rest, more than $3 million, was to assist the COVID-19 recovery planning. What? I would love to see the notes from these meetings. I hope they're public. I hope they're made public. Goodness me, that's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. This is the other part of that. Ontario's top doctor did not lead province's COVID-19 response, auditor finds. Earlier, I was reading about how the news was saying that it had to be the Ontario province that implemented mandatory masks because the top doctor, Williams, wouldn't do it. Is that in this one? Hold on, let me see. Yeah. For instance, it was the province, not the chief medical officer, that finally issued an emergency order in early October to require masking for the general public. It's not even the chief medical officer's recommendation. It's just from Doug Ford. Take off your masks. Doug Ford thinks that wearing a mask works. I mean, how many liberals believe Doug Ford? Take off your masks. It has nothing to do with medicine. It has everything to do with control. It is unbelievable we're just allowing this to happen. Unbelievable, right? And there are people out there who think that Adamson's barbecue should be closed. Here's Doug Ford saying, as we begin to prepare for the holiday season, I want to emphasize that the safest way to spend the holidays this year is by only celebrating in person with those you live with and virtually with everyone else. The next few weeks will be critical to flatten the second wave. Doug, what second wave? Get bent, dude. Get bent. Get absolutely bent. And Miss Tam too, Dr. Tam too. Tam urges Canadians to limit outings as Ontario is set to announce Christmas rules. Christmas rules? Good luck. Good luck. Good luck, buddy. See you in court. Christmas rules. This is an interesting video sent to me as well. This is, that's going to take a minute to load. This is Mike. Oh, I can't remember his name here. Hold on.
Michael Voyajakis of Voyage Funeral Home.
He tells a couple of heartbreaking stories, and it's worth watching this video. I'm not going to pick and choose the story or anything like that. It's a 5-minute video, and I think it's worthwhile. He's begging you to go see your grandparents. He's saying that a lot of the deaths that have happened of COVID maybe wouldn't have happened if family members were there. And historically, family members help a lot, right? Like if your mom is in the last month of her life, they need a lot of help, right? And it's your job to be there. I often tell people, like your friends in your accounting office probably aren't going to be there at your deathbed, right? But your kids might be if you're nice, and it's no guarantee, right? There's no guarantee that your kids will be there, but maybe, right? But right now, it's not allowed. And that's unbelievable. Also, he was telling stories about, he tells stories about not being able to go and visit their dying relative, but after the relative had passed, then they were allowed because of COVID rules. Just unbelievable. I don't know how you stand up against this tyranny, right? Do you show up at the old folks' home and wait for them to come and get the police to drag you out? Are you gonna, if you're a police officer, how could you drag somebody out from doing something like that, right? And I mean, like, it's already hard enough that you're not able to be there for your parent, right? Or your parents or whatever's happening. But also adding the layer of you're not allowed to do this because it's for your safety. It's a bridge too far. I'm not willing to accept it, not without a whole lot more data. And Doug Ford and Theresa Tam and Cam Guthrie and Bonnie Crombie and all of these mid-level tiny little dictators who are trying to make people feel safe are forgetting that there's no data to back up any of what they're doing. No data at all. In fact, we've got data to the opposite. Masks don't work. Lockdowns are more harm than good. And this isn't stopping the virus. What happens after the 28-day lockdown? Who decided that it was needed as a 28-day lockdown? The first lockdown was 14 days. Did anybody look at that? Obviously, it didn't work, right? Obviously not, because 8 months later, we're still in this quasi-lockdown state. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it should not stand. This is something that I thought was interesting. My friend said to me yesterday, when do you think this ends? And I said, this does not end. Unless something massive happens, unless something breaks, this doesn't end. We continue this slide. If you don't like the trajectory we're on, sorry about your luck, but we continue this slide. Unless I said before, Dominion voting systems, if Trump wins and Dominion voting systems is examined and there's an obvious flaw in Dominion, and Dominion placed LPC, CPC, Ontario PC, and Dominion covered Ontario elections, Alberta elections, New Brunswick elections, and Dominion covers at least 50 municipalities in Ontario and around Canada. So there will be serious questions. There will be a reckoning if that happens. Is it likely? Man, were you watching the Trump's tweets yesterday? There's some interesting stuff happening. This one's interesting. I don't know what to make of this. So this was after I kind of laid that out for my friend. I said, the reason that I think that we continue this slide is this news here. Japanese foreign minister announces a plan to transform Japan into a diversified multi-ethnic society by encouraging mass immigration and giving foreign residents the right to vote. If that doesn't tell you that the plan is to take over absolutely everywhere, and they're not stopping. There's no amount of compliance. Don't wear the mask a little bit, right? Because they'll want you to wear the mask all the time. If you wear the mask all the time, then they'll want you to stay in your home. If you stay in your home, then they'll want you to stay in your room masked, right? Don't comply. Don't comply. It's not worth it. Crowd gasps after finding out that a mysterious spike of voters in Pennsylvania had 600,000 votes for Biden and 3,200 for Trump. That is, Sidney Powell keeps saying it's like flipping a coin 800,000 times or some crazy number of times, and it always being on heads, right? Like it's not plausible, it's not probable, it's not possible. It doesn't happen. So was there electoral interference? Was there electoral fraud? I guess we're going to find out. I think there are some dates that are coming up that are like trigger dates, but I think that the Electoral College usually meets in mid-December, like December 13th, to finalize their vote. I still think it's going to be Trump. I'm really, not to say I'm not worried, because this is a war, and in wars, things sometimes don't happen the way you think, right? But I have a feeling that this was a bit of a bombshell for the other side. I have a feeling that there were people who were expecting none of this to come to pass, right? They were expecting the Biden transition team to be the big news and not the going into Thanksgiving that, yeah, maybe there was real electoral interference, and maybe Pennsylvania and the 6 other states all do go to Trump. And maybe, just maybe, Joe Biden's not the guy that the United States thought he was, right? Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be a thing? That might be something enough to wake people up. That might be something enough to make people realize what's going on. But it might not be. Right? Might not be. Canadians might be quite content to sit in their corrupt quasi dictatorship and have their city councilors and school board trustees and mid-level politicians and premiers decide which businesses are essential and which ones aren't, and decide where you can go and who you can hang out with and how much the fine should be if you go and hang out with a friend of yours. How dare you, sir? Don't you know there's a crisis? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But just watch what happens. I think that this might work. Maybe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. That's my scratch pad. And check out SpeakingMoistly.co. That's my show with Greg. Man, I was thinking of going up to the barbecue today. I don't know if I've got time. It's already 11:30. I'm already late. I don't know. It would be really fun to do it, though. All right. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thanks for watching, everybody.